changes or clarifications. First one is item 15 on the agenda is being requested to be removed from the agenda per the project engineer that will come forward at a later council meeting. Item 28, clarification, is not a public hearing. The public hearing took place at the Planning Commission last week. And then the final clarification or adjustment is item 30, which is the issuance and sale of the bonds. That RCA and resolution has been updated to reflect the results of the bond sale earlier today.
Very good. So we will move ahead. The next thing is public comments. If anybody has anything you'd like to address us about that's not on the agenda, we would entertain those comments at this time. If not, we'll move forward. Consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items to be pulled from the consent agenda. Any item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. Number 1, approve the city council special minutes from August 7th, 2024. Number 2, approve city council work session minutes from August 7th, 2024. Number 3, approve the city council minutes from August 7th, 2024. Number 4, approve the payment of bills and finance report. Number 5, approve the appointment of Mitchell Scott to the Baxter Parks and Trails Commission. Number 6, approve the appointment to the seasonal position of park attendant. Number 7, accept the Utilities Commission minutes from August 8th, 2024. Number 9, approve the BNSF invoice number 90271495, the amount of $2,362.50 for the 2022 Trunk Highway 210 and Inglewood Drive Improvements Project, the city improvement number 4121. Number 9, approve the Aztec Corp change order number 1 in the increased amount of $34,536.37 and amend the project budget to $639,664.86 for the 2024 microservicing project. Number 10, approve the Anderson Brothers Construction change order number 8 in the increased amount of $18,775.62 and amend the project budget by the increased amount of $96,227.59 for a total budget of $4,476,035.22 for the 2023 commercial and residential full depth reclamation and quiet zone improvements project.
Pull number 10, please.
Pardon me?
Pull number 10, please.
Yeah. Number 11, approve the Anderson Brothers Construction partial pay estimate number 10 in the amount of $58,158.01 for the 2023 commercial and residential full depth reclamation and quiet zone improvement project. Number 12, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. change order number 3 in the amount of $4,343.33 for the 2024 Southview Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138. Number 13, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. change order number 4 in the increased amount of $146,000 for the 2024 South Forest View Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138.
Pull number 13 as well, please.
Number 13 is pulled. Number 14, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 4 in the amount of $747,309.90 for the 2024 South Forest View Area Improvements Project, municipal project number 4138. Number 15 has been pulled. Number 16,
Probably pull 14.
I'm sorry.
Should probably pull 14 also. Does that have the change orders in it?
Okay. Number 16, approve the Knife River Corporation North Central change order number 3 in the increased amount of $12,242.67 for the 2024 mill and overlay and full depth reclamation improvements project, municipal project number 4424. Number 17, approve the Knife River Corporation North Central partial pay estimate number 3 in the amount of $539,223.77 for the 2024 mill and overlay and full reclamation improvements. The municipal project number 4424. Number 18, adopt resolution 2024-075, accepting the bid from France Affordable Excavating Inc. in the amount of $551,053 7, utility improvements project, municipal project number 4118. Number 19, approve the WITSET proposal for professional survey services in a not to exceed amount of $43,000 for the 2025 Hill Overlay Full Depth Reclamation Improvements Project, municipal project 4425. Number 20, approve the WITSET agreement for professional construction services in the estimated amount of $132,000 for the 2024 project Timberwolf improvements. Number 21, approve M&L Inc. change order number 1 for the Whiskey Creek Planting Plan project, municipal project number 200292 for the no net change in contract price. Number 22, approve the M&L Inc. Partial pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $86,504.86 for the Whiskey Creek Stormwater Improvements Project, municipal project number 200292. Number 23, approve SEH contract for the Trunk Highway 371 Development Traffic Review in a not to exceed amount of $7,550. Number 24, approve the 2024-2025 contract for Chamber of Commerce Services. Number 25, authorize execution of contract with Andrews Technology for UKGE time and attendance solution. Number 26, special event application for Lake Country Triathlon on August 25th, 2024. 27, accept planning and zoning commission minutes from August 14th, 2024. 28 has been pulled. 29, adopt resolution 2024-014 and resolution 2024-072, approving a zoning ordinance text amendment to amend the city's architectural ordinance.
Just want a clarification, 28 is not pulled. The clarification that staff made was that it's not a public hearing. So we're still looking for the approval of the conditional use permit.
Okay, we'll go back and read it in. Public hearing conditional use permit number, allow grading and filling in a shoreline district for property located at 13281 Mile Lake Drive, City File 24-029.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Lissu. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. First pulled item.
That's me on number 10. I just wanted clarification on this. Part 1 covers seal coating of the Hirschfield parking lot. I was just confused about the private nature of the parking lot. Or not, that's part of our project.
So our project impacted existing striping within their parking lot, so the change order 4, I believe it was, had us restriping the parking lot to basically preserve the amount of parking that they had prior to the project. Basically, things had to be shifted and reconfigured a little. The original assessment at that time was that the existing markings were faded enough that they weren't going to be confusing, that we could just stripe over what was there. But fast forward to now, it was determined that it was going to be confusing, so in discussions with staff, the recommendation was to seal coat it and then stripe it. So it's something that our project caused incorrectly, basically.
So we're just fixing things that were,
That we impacted, we're making them whole again, basically.
okay.
It's not to prolong the life of the pavement, it's to make the pavement markings work, is why we did it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Motion to approve number 10.
I'll move to approve it.
Motion by Talbot. Second by Cross. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What was next, Brad?
13.
Number 13.
I can start the conversation. It's $146,000 for watering the ditches and sod and all that. It's been a wildly rainy year. I just wanted to pull that question in and see if we could discuss it or get some clarification and go from there.
just start at the top, or how do you wanna go about it?
The way I read it, I guess, I'm at the point of, I'd like a full out, top to bottom conversation about it.
Sure. So, the contract includes a bid item for watering turf and trees. The intent of that item was to cover watering after the maintenance period. So we have a maintenance period of 45 days for sod, 60 days for seeded areas. The contractor interpreted that bid item as that it covered watering throughout, once the sod and seed is down, throughout when we accept it. So they made a claim that, that was how they bid their project. And we reviewed the contract language, discussed it at length with city staff, discussed it with the city attorney, and, you know, we basically came to the conclusion that the interpretation was fair, and to hold them to their sodding and seeding prices without paying additional for water wasn't fair. We did take it a bit further and, you know, just compared their bids to the other bids, and they were substantially less. I mean, even with this $146,000, they were still over $100,000 less than the next bidder. So there's no concerns internally or from the city attorney on that regard. Where this money's coming from is the contingency. I know we don't want to spend the contingency if we don't have to, but we still have over $100,000 left in contingency. We've itemized all the loose ends that we're aware of at this point, and we're still looking like $100,000 for contingency items. As far as how that 146 was determined, twofold. We started with the unit price that they had given on a per 1,000 gallon basis. That was for that, intended to be for after the maintenance period was over. And we negotiated down to what the unit price is included in the change order. But then that whole unit price is then multiplied by what we're estimating the quantity to be that we're gonna need for the entire project to come up with that number. And that quantity is based on worst case scenario if it doesn't rain at all during the, you know, maintenance period and any period we need after that. So that is what's figured into all of this. So I don't know if I skipped anything, but I can answer any other specific questions beyond that explanation.
I had the same conversation today, and you know, from the cheap seats, it's easy to be critical because we're not there for all that intimate discussion. But again, from the cheap seats, I'm reading this and I'm going, Mr. Contractor, seriously, you didn't think maybe you'd have to water in the summertime, grass and sod and trees, and to say, well, no, we didn't read it that way. And again, that's from the
Right.
Probably more to it than that. But if that's the case, then it bears down on some things Zach's been talking about. We've got to nail these contracts so that a third grader can understand it. Because to me, I thought that's pretty blatant, you know, that how, you know, it gets hot in June and July and August here. So how much more would you have to spell that out? Obviously, we do have to, so that we know no mistake that you're going to be watering, you know.
Right. I think, I can't speak, well, I can speak for them because we've had a lot of discussions with them. I mean, they knew they needed to water, they just were planning to get paid for it, you know, as needed on a per unit price estimated basis, you know, like all our other items that we have in the contract. And that was my knee-jerk reaction, not knee-jerk, but my initial reaction was heck no. But then when you actually dig into it deeper, look at everything, including the unit prices, it's clearly, I mean, it wasn't even close, their unit price compared to the rest of the But yeah, we've talked at the staff level of strengthening the language for the future, but I mean, we talked about this even before bidding and going into this, that watering it seems to always be an issue as far as overrunning and things like that, so I'm thinking we're being proactive on this one, but we're
So in the
kind of in the
steps,
same boat again.
what's the level of, what's our acceptance of landscaping? I mean, do you have some percentage of growth or something in there to say, yes, it's established, we will accept it, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's an accepted standard as far as a permit goes, the NPDS construction stormwater permit has 70% of coverage, but ours is more of it's an acceptable stand of grass, so a fully healthy growing stand of grass. It's basically a judgment call on the engineer and staff's part as to when it's acceptable, but it's basically a full coverage of grass. If it's seeded, if it's sod, it's still living and green and healthy, it's rooted down, that regard. But they're only held to a certain maintenance period as long as it's meeting those standards. At the end of that, if it dies, a month later, you can't maintain it forever, so. I can pull up the exact language, but it's not like so many, whatever, strands of grass,
So
what
many
they have,
plants per
square
square
foot,
foot.
it's more of a percent of coverage type of thing.
Okay.
But we encourage people to water it themselves and to take care of it if they want it to look like a golf course and things like that. We estimate these quantities again, just based on if it doesn't rain, it has been raining a fair amount, so hopefully this number comes in lower. Is what we're anticipating.
So that leads to the question I was gonna follow up with on the 146 here. It's a per unit until the end of the period, so in theory, we could end up lower than 146.
Right. It
Okay.
could be higher, but hopefully weather stays the way it is and be lower.
Sure. I just wanna know, and I know staff and the engineering teams can't be there every day, but, I don't know what day it was, but I know when this, was mentioned in the neighborhood, a resident mentioned to me that they observed the water truck running during the rain, and I
Okay.
immediately questioned whether or not that was an opportunity to run up our per unit bill. I didn't see it, but
We are monitoring the volumes daily, and then we're discussing it at our weekly meetings as a group, so we are monitoring it. That's interesting, I'll bring that back
yeah, I can't
on my end.
testify to it, but
Yep.
what I heard was the water truck runs rain or shine.
And what we agreed on was that the watering was not 7 days a week, it was Monday through Friday, so that
Should be observable reasonably.
right.
Perfect.
And, as a staff and engineering team will monitor things, if we feel like we can back off, back off.
So we're gonna see another change order on this.
No, this is it.
That's the actual number.
It could be lower than that though.
Well, change orders are an estimate, they're not exact, so, this is a unit price change order, so.
Our change order is not exact.
Is there-
Is that a change to our contract?
It is, but it's still a unit price contract, so it's.
It would have to come as a change order if it exceeds 146.
Well, what if it's less than 146? It's still a change order.
Yeah, but the contract
I mean, no.
the contract amendment calls out that it's a per unit price not to exceed.
It's not called out as not to exceed.
It can go an overrun or an underrun.
It's an estimated unit.
It's an estimated unit.
So it's a fixed unit price.
Fixed unit price, estimated quantity.
Estimated quantity.
Yep.
Well, why are we doing it now? Why don't we do a change order when it's done and we know what the price is?
Because we gotta agree on the unit price, otherwise we don't have a unit price going into this.
We-
We get to the end.
There wasn't a unit price in the.
This is a
contract.
reduced unit price from what was in the bid. So we negotiated down, so this is a unit price for watering during the maintenance period, and then they have their unit price for after the maintenance period, if we need water after the maintenance period.
And then what I was gonna add is that right now it was figured at 250,000 gallons a week for 8 weeks for a total of 2 million gallons. Last week, we only used 60,000 gallons. So the first week, right now, we've got a savings already of 190,000 gallons.
So once it's done, we'll have a change order that will give us the actual gallons used.
Oh, we'll just either have an underrun or an overrun of quantity.
Well, that's the actual gallons used.
We don't do compensatory, change orders at the end where you take and balance your overruns and underruns like the federal contracts. We don't do that, Mark. You're used to it with the federal contracts.
I'm used to paying what the price is.
Right, you do a compensatory, we know what the price is, that's what the change order is setting, is the price.
Yeah, but what you're telling me is we're not necessarily going to use 2 million gallons of water.
Correct. I'm hoping not, that's what we're banking on.
But yet we're approving 2 million gallons of water.
No, what you're approving is $73 per 1,000 gallons. At an estimated 2 million gallons of water for a total estimated possible change order cost of $146,000.
When we're all done, we can bring back another change order to zero everything out, but that's what.
Okay, I'm in the business, I'm lost here.
I don't know what to tell you, that's all we've been doing it for the 25 years I've been here.
So there's estimated quantities.
Everything is estimated quantity.
Everything in the project is estimated quantities.
Correct.
At some point, you draw a line and say how much we use, and that's what we pay.
Correct.
When do we do that?
We pay them monthly for what they use.
Final pay estimate is where you settle up the overruns and underruns. But there's no change order that comes with that. We can do it that way. We have to do it on the federal jobs.
Fine.
It's called a compensatory change order. You've seen it last year on Highway 210 in Inglewood. But we normally don't do that on any other
So-
projects.
The final pay estimate will give us the actual quantities used.
Correct.
That's all I'm asking.
So I'll just state on here, the change order number 4 in the increased amount of $146,000. So it's stating that's the change order amount. And then down in the text of it, it says, provided a price for a new bid item related to water.
Right. So we track it daily and then cut it off at a certain point every month, and then that's what the contractor gets paid. Just like our other, estimated quantities.
I'm just wondering if it's a wording thing and not for what exactly the change order is.
The problem is on a change order, you've got to do an estimated cost because we got a budget that we have to follow, so. So you have to put an estimated quantity in there. We're hoping we estimated high, therefore coming under the $146,000 at the end of the 8 weeks.
I think the part that kind of threw me was when you look at the agenda item under the RCA, it doesn't say anything about changing the cost of water. It says an increased amount of $146,000, period. You gotta go through and read all the way through and look at the form before you see actually what's happening.
And we can
But
change.
again, the amount is an estimated amount. Okay.
We'll change that to make sure that the change order spells out what the actual contract bid that we negotiated with either an increased amount or decreased amount of for the total contract. have to change it on their bonds too, you know, Mark, for the contract amount. So they have to have an estimated amount in there, because they gotta increase their bond by this $146,000.
Are we good there?
I'm good.
I'm fine with the idea of paying a fair price for work being done, and that part of it doesn't bug me at all. And now I've just gone down a rabbit hole with myself about 2 million gallons of water for the sod. And I think I'm not going to make the motion to approve it, and I'm gonna let the rest of you all make the decision. I don't like it.
You don't like the fact we have to water it?
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna go.
Like
I don't
it
want
should
to, I don't
have been in
want
the
to,
contract?
I'm okay with the concept of watering, but now I don't know, 2 million gallons of water seems like a lot of water to me. And I don't know, I don't like it. So I'm not trying to convince anyone to vote against it, but I'm not gonna vote for it.
To put it in perspective, we did look at North Forest View project done. That was 1.7 million gallons for the maintenance period for both the sod and the seed. And it's about the same acreage and the same sodded area as the North Forest View.
Was that included in the contract, or was that extra?
Back then it was bid with the actual lane of the sod and the seed prices.
So the maintenance period was part of the planting, which is the way I usually see a landscape.
And if you look at the bids, every other contractor bids $16 to $18 per square yard on the sod. R.L. Larson only bid $8 a square yard. It's very evident if you take the cost difference between the $16 and $8, it's $176,000 that was left out in water, just for the sod. Every other contractor bid it with the maintenance figured in with the watering. Theirs is the only bid out of all 5 bids that didn't have it included.
But isn't that kind of the whole idea of bidding a project? Yes, you make some mistakes. Yes, you bid some things high. And when the total's up and you're the low guy, you get the job.
That's why they expected to be paid at the 83 cents per 1,000 gallons, even though we only had 300,000 gallons on there, and we knew that it was gonna take another 2 million gallons. The 300,000 gallons was only figured for after the maintenance period of the seed and the sod. 300,000 gallons is all that was bid. They figured that they were gonna get a great big increase at 83 cents per 1,000 gallons of taking and getting all this 2 million gallons of water. We said, no, we gotta negotiate a less price than that. We got it down to $73 per 1,000 gallons.
So was this one of those opportunities they saw during bidding
To make a lot of money,
to make money later?
you know,
Nice.
just the bidding atmosphere. Like you said, Mark, they bid high on certain things, hoping that there's a big change order on it. Well, we're negotiating a change order. It will damn well be clear in the next contract, but we can't change it now. We had never bid maintenance water before, but we got into this problem on Foley and Fourthen, and with the North Forest View, that the maintenance period was done, but yet it was dry in October, and then we needed water in the spring. So we as staff go, we need to bid 300,000 gallons so we can add some water in the fall, add some water in the spring to jumpstart this stuff. So we put the 300,000 in there, and it says right after the maintenance period. They expected to get paid for that same price for everything during the maintenance period, because they bid the sod at this, figuring that the water covered everything during the maintenance period. Even though the gallons aren't there. If you read the specs at the 1 inch per week that is supposed to go on it, it's supposed to be 3 million gallons of water over the 8 weeks.
So at what point are we liable for a contractor not reading the specs.
That's why we took it through the interpretation of the engineers and the city attorney. They said it's gray enough that it could be read either way if it ended up in court. I don't know what else to say.
I just, what we learn each time we have these situations come up, and there's five of us somewhere, we'll remember probably now, but what I think we got here is, we have an attorney who's telling us she's not gonna back us. It's only August, and we quit watering, it's all gonna burn up. And, we're going, unless we get rain, and it'll all still come back right here to us, so. Choose our poison here, I guess.
So if we don't approve this, then they just stop watering?
Yep, until we figure it
Basically,
out. Then our city attorney starts the notification to them for the contract, and we start negotiating out through the attorneys on both parties.
I gotta ask, so, in theory, we say no. We can demand that they do it and include the attorney, but if we were to just stop right now, we don't have to include dealing with them through attorneys, correct?
Well, they're gonna wanna get paid for what they've done so far. Are they out?
Yeah, have they done work that's already assumed to be approved tonight?
Yeah, they've started watering what's been put down.
So are we in the maintenance period at this point?
On some of it, not all the sod or seed is down, but what's down, we're in it.
Well, if it's not watered, and all burns up, we're gonna hear from the residents. And rightfully so.
Anything, Brad?
No, it is a bill of, in that context, if you do go the route of not approving the change order, you do have what's already been laid and incurring that additional expense of having it replaced, because that's where the attorneys are gonna negotiate it, the responsibilities, because they're gonna say is, we did it per the contract, and hit it home, you're gonna have to incur the expense of replacing it. That's the reason why seeking the advice of the city attorney was prudent in this particular case. And as Trevor and Scott have indicated, Greta's response is that it's a gray area in regards to the law as to which side the court would fall on in that context. Weighing the odds in that context that indicated that proceeding with the change order would be, the lesser of all evils, per se.
So, if you'd written this RC a little bit different, and you just said we're changing the unit price of the watering from whatever it was down to whatever it is, and not necessarily adding $146,000 to the contract, but it coming out of contingency and, once it all shakes out in the final pay estimate, it probably won't be a big deal. It's part of the project. It's kind of the way it was presented.
We have to estimate a quantity though, I mean, that's just,
I think it's just initially how it's worded to present it to the full context, I guess.
I think your statement's fair, Mark. Yeah, I'm not trying to turn this into a big thing. It just,
Okay, well, I'm going to reluctantly make a motion to approve it.
I will reluctantly second.
Any further discussion? It's it's an unfortunate situation. It's, like I said, could be viewed as a lose-lose thing here either way, but all reluctantly in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I,
Motion carries. Okay.
It beats reluctantly paying for attorney's fees. So we have 14 now we have to,
It always makes me nervous when the attorney says, hey, you got a good point, but I'm not gonna be with you. What was next, Brad?
14, which was the pay estimate for the same project.
make a motion to approve number 14.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Lissu. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Same sign, motion carries. Next. We're all out of there.
Other
did
businesses,
15 get pulled? I missed that in our original conversation.
15 got pulled.
15 did, I think that was just for assumption, or were they both just approved?
15 was removed from the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Per the engineer's request.
I'll stop creating chaos.
Oh, you're not,
I doubt that.
you're not creating chaos. In that context, the next item on the agenda would be is the approval or adoption of the resolution 2024-074, approving the issuance of sale of the general obligation bonds. Finance Director, Missy Nick, is going to provide a summary, so, Mr.
Your Honor, Council, I'm here to present the results of today's bond sale. We sold bonds today to finance the 2024 improvement projects. As you're aware, last week we did have a rating call with Moody's. They did reaffirm our AA2 rating. As part of the bond sale today, we had 4 bidders. We were all tight bids within 7 basis points or 0.07%. Those bidders included Piper, Minneapolis, Hilltop Securities out of Dallas, as well as Northern Securities out of Minneapolis, and Robert Baird out of Milwaukee. Piper Sandler out of Minneapolis was the low bidder. As part of the bond sale, we were able to reduce the par amount pretty significantly from $6.9 million that was originally structured with bonds to $5,480,000. So it was a $1.4 million reduction, and that was a result of 3 things. The first being additional prepaids that we just accomplished over the last 3 months. There was over $600,000 of additional prepaids assessments that were made in the last 3 months. In addition to that, there was a bond premium once again, an interest rate environment we're in. The bond sales, they want to see kind of a higher interest rate, so they typically will ask for a higher interest rate, but in exchange for that, then they give you money back. So you can either take that money, I guess, and spend it. It's kind of like a cash out, I suppose we could say, on the refinance, or else you can just reduce the amount borrowed, and we typically reduce the amount borrowed. So that made up a little over $512,000. And then the balance of that was just looking at some of the project costs and knowing that those came in lower than originally estimated. We were able to go with that amount borrowed as well. Just an interesting fact, about 24% of the special assessments on the various projects this year were prepaid. So about a quarter of it was prepaid. In addition to that, by reducing that par amount, we were able to accomplish about $370,000 savings in interest over the 12-year life of the bond. So that will be savings that will be accomplished not only for the assessment rate payers when they pay their assessments, but also for the city for the $1,500,000 or so of the debt service levy that we have over that 12-year period. We did have better than anticipated interest rate. Even yesterday, interest rates were about 3.5% on a similar sale. We came in with a true interest rate of 3.17 from Piper Jaffray. paper jacker, that's the old name, it's paper stammer now, I'm dating myself for a little bit there. I think part of that is just seeing some speculation that's occurring in the market, you know, with the better funds rates probably being reduced in the second part of the year here. Looking back at the beginning of the year, we anticipate maybe about 6 or 7 rate reductions. Today we've had none, so there's just kind of some market kind of expectations that that's going to probably change over the last few months of the year here. So hit the market really at a great time, I guess, to kind of accomplish that. So based on that true interest rate, we would be recommending as part of the resolution setting the assessment interest rates at 4.7% and 5.2% for developer petition projects as part of our assessment policy. As I mentioned, we did anticipate assessments earlier this year being about 7%, so pretty significant savings on those interest rates too. Just as a comparison to last year, that 3.17% that we accomplished on the bonds this year, we had a little over 4.04, I believe, percent last year. So saw some pretty good savings, I guess, in comparison to last year. Let's see, I covered everything else. So that recommendation would be to adopt the resolution 2474, which would award the revised par amount of $5,480,000 to Piper Sandler of Minneapolis. So if you have any questions, I can certainly answer those. I know I did provide an updated copy. Yes.
So you said we got paid a premium of $512,000.
Right.
What does that premium do?
It basically is just additional proceeds that we would use, so it'd be just like borrowing that amount, so really you would just add that to the par amount of the bonds. It's just additional funds that they're giving you because you're paying a higher interest rate, so you're able to borrow less, so now by borrowing
So they're paying us to
take a higher interest rate. I'm sorry, I cut you off, what did you say?
they're paying us $500,000 to raise the interest rate.
Right.
Well, shouldn't we use that money to lower the interest rate for our assessees?
It's factored into that true interest cost, so there is a pretty complex calculation that comes up with how that 3.17% rate was determined. It's based on that premium that's built into it. So it's already being calculated into that true interest rate calculation. I don't have software to be able to do that, but that's something that they built into that. But basically what it does is because bond investors want to see a higher interest rate, so typically they will raise the interest, but that's not what the market is actually getting, because the market isn't getting 5% on bonds right now. It's more in that 3% or so. So by charging us a higher interest rate, they have to give us money back to do that. It would be just like if you would go out now and try to buy bonds that have a 5% coupon rate on them, you'd have to pay more than 100% for those, because that's not what the market currently is at. And kind of works in the reverse a little bit too, where you get a discount in the reverse situation where they're paying you quite a bit more than what the market actually is holding. But yeah, we've seen premiums for a number of years now. It's just because that's where the investors want to see is a little higher interest rate. The way they structured these in particular, I believe the first 8 or 9 years were a 5% coupon, and then it dropped to 4% for the last 3 or 4 years. But those costs are all included in the calculation of the true interest rate cost.
Any questions?
I guess I'll just make a couple of comments about the background section. Talked about a couple of things that I thought were good for us to just keep in mind as maybe financial advice through the Moody's ratings system. Looking at that we've what did they comment exactly? That we have a robust financial position and moderate leverage and fixed costs. So those are things that we as a group want to maintain and continue, and not let leverage get too high and watch our fixed costs. The other thing that I thought was just interesting was, oftentimes a board or a city council or a county board might look at finding ways around budget issues by lowering reserve levels and paying out of our cash. And they're specifically saying that we're sitting nice in cash and we should continue to do so, is what I was hearing out of that.
That's a good point, Councilor Tabbitt, having those strong fund balances certainly has mitigated some of that. I mean, we're a smaller city too, so to have a AA2 rating, only 2 notches below AAA is kind of unheard of a little bit too, but we've seen some pretty significant increase in our valuations too, that's kind of moved us to that level too. And even just some of the changing wording that you kind of see in those ratings too, like they've kind of lightened up a little bit on the saying that we do have a moderate, a lower amount of fixed costs, too, so the amount of debt that's outstanding factors into that additional pension costs and other things like that aren't as concerning as maybe they were in the past. Even just some of the things going through the ratings with them in the past too, they were always concerned about the high concentration of our 10 largest taxpayers was very concentrated in retail, and in particular with the Mills family when they owned both the store as well as all the dealerships. That's certainly kind of changed over the years as that split up a little bit, and then just seeing some other properties too, kind of in that top 10 too. So those are all kind of important factors in there. And some of them, we certainly don't control as much either. You get into some of those socioeconomic issues. One of the interesting ones I found on the stats that I think I forwarded to you as part of that rating was in the table was just from 2020 to 2022, just the change in our household income too kind of dropped pretty significantly too. So something to kind of keep a one eye on a little bit too. I don't know how to necessarily manage that, but certainly having the other factors that we can do more control over, like our reserves and our amount of debt we issue, are things we can control.
Well, we should thank our finance department, because I remember when we weren't AAA or whatever that is, and we were a couple of steps down, and we didn't have the 180-day fund balance, and we instituted that, I don't know how many years ago, all trying to get better interest rates and, better phone sales. And, part of it was our housing stock was all single family, and, diversifying it into multifamily helped. And there were all kinds of things that happened over the years to get us to this point.
Yeah, it's interesting telling the story. They keep changing it by rating agency keeps changing the person that does the rating, which is probably good, but yet you're always constantly re-explaining it and trying to get across the whole idea that we are the regional center in north central Minnesota. You basically are going an hour south or 2 hours in either direction. Kind of see the same kind of retail impact that we have here, and I think they were kind of surprised by that, in the past, and just re-educating them every time we have to go through that has been kind of a interesting exercise, but I think they're kind of amazed by that, and just the fact that we do have pretty significant land area that we can still develop too, so they kind of recognize that too, that we are going to increase some costs as we're doing some of these projects and, and doing that investment in the community, so pretty well balanced overall, I guess. Thank you for those comments too.
Okay, anything else? Guess we need a motion to approve. Sorry, Ross.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Some comments, Connie?
Pebble Beach will be very exciting, very busy this weekend with the kids triathlon on Saturday and the adults triathlon on Sunday, and that's always a great time to showcase Whipple. But also regarding Whipple, I've heard reports that the vandalism has really been pretty extreme with 3 to 4 dozen eggs thrown in the buildings, so at a future time, I'd like to bring up the discussions regarding the security cameras once again. That's all.
Bummer. Zach?
Just a few general things. I know we're all waiting on budget discussions, but I'm just going to throw out a general hope that it's a moderate budget situation this year. I personally, in a field for some level of belt tightening, if you want to use that metaphor, or just not having a large jump, if possible, would sure be appreciated. I was just thinking as we were finishing the Whiskey Creek project as well, on a side note of just community level things. I don't know, and I'm assuming based on all of the native plantings that are going there, you couldn't actually do sort of community-centric placemaking type thing that might be a good way for people to recognize Baxter and the community as such. Thinking like the National Night Out or Night Team Night that we do, but more, something like an Arts in the Park, a concert, parking food trucks on the trail around the Whiskey Creek, something like that. That's an event that people could go to and come to Baxter, as we don't tend to have very much there. So just general ideas, all the things I just mentioned were just off the cuff random things. I'm not arguing for any of them and thinking that they should be done immediately or anything, but just wanted to kind of plant the seed that maybe there's room for us to find something that we could encourage to happen. I'll leave it at that tonight.
Thank you. Jeff?
No comments, thank you, sir.
No comments, Tom.
I have nothing. City Administrator?
Just as was placed in front of you earlier this evening, MIDDOT is having their first public input for the 371 overpass, scheduled for Tuesday, September 10th at the District 3 office here in town. Meeting with the business owners is from 12:30 to 2, and public meeting from 4 to 6. We'll get this posted on the city website. We'll send a reminder calendar for
I do have a
council.
question to the city administrator. The budget meeting that came out of an email of either September 9th, Tuesday, or the Thursday, has that been set?
No, conversations that Finance Director Vasinik and myself had is to see how, what initial meeting goes on the 3rd to determine that following week, if that's a Monday or Tuesday, or forgive me,
Monday or Thursday?
Monday or Thursday.
I'm out of town on Monday, so if it could be Thursday, I would appreciate that. Did you get my response?
Yeah, I did it. Yeah. So looking at, I think that's the 10th, then, if I recall correctly.
Tuesday's the 10th.
Tuesday,
The 12th, then.
Is that it?
That is it, Your Honor.
From our attorney?
Nothing from the attorney.
What's that?
Nothing from the attorney.
Nothing good, anyway. Motion